Have you ever wondered if history is doomed to repeat itself? This intriguing question has sparked countless debates among scholars and armchair historians alike. Is history a wheel, forever turning in a cyclical pattern, or is it a straight line, marching forward without ever looking back? Today, we're delving into this fascinating concept, exploring 10 instances where history appears to be stuck on repeat. We'll examine events that seem to echo through the ages, suggesting that perhaps we're not as unique as we think. From the rise and fall of empires to economic crises, pandemics, political revolutions, technological advances, climate changes, wars, peace treaties, and social movements, we'll traverse the annals of history to find recurring patterns. So, is history cyclical or linear? Or perhaps is it a spiral, constantly moving forward but always circling back to familiar themes? Prepare to embark on a journey through time as we uncover the repeating patterns of history. Our first stop, the rise and fall of empires. History is a vast tapestry, woven with threads of triumph and tragedy. Let's turn our gaze toward the grand empires of the past. The Roman Empire, for instance, rose from a small city-state to a sprawling entity that spanned 3 continents. But its greatness was not eternal. Overextension, political corruption, and economic instability led to its eventual downfall. Next, we journey to the British Empire. Its sun never set, ruling over vast territories across the globe. But the winds of change blew fiercely, and the empire crumbled under the weight of nationalism and decolonization. Then there's the Soviet Union. Born out of the ashes of the Russian Empire, it became a global superpower, only to disintegrate due to political dissent and economic pressures. As one empire falls, another seems to rise, following an eerily similar trajectory. These cyclical patterns in history highlight the impermanence of power and the inevitability of change. Next up, we delve into the world of economics. If you've ever wondered why your wallet feels lighter every few years, it's not just you. It's the cyclical nature of economic crises. The ebb and flow of the economy has been as regular as the tide throughout history. Consider the Great Depression of the 1930s, a period of severe worldwide economic downturn that lasted a decade. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we find ourselves in the throes of the 2008 financial crisis, a devastating blow that rippled across the globe, leaving no stone unturned. But why does this happen? Economies, like everything else in nature, follow cycles of growth and decline. Over-speculation, over-borrowing, and overconfidence often lead to a bubble that inevitably bursts. Like clockwork, economic crises seem to strike when we least expect them. But if we learn from history, we can anticipate these cycles and better prepare for the economic tides that lie ahead. Our next historical echo, pandemics. Like an unwelcome guest, pandemics have resurfaced time and again throughout history. From the dark days of the Black Death that decimated Europe in the 14th century, to the Spanish flu of the early 20th century, these global health crises have forever changed the course of human history. Each pandemic wave has brought with it a tide of devastation, altering the social, political, and economic landscape of the world. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we find ourselves grappling with COVID-19. Despite the remarkable strides in medical science and technology, this pandemic has once again exposed the vulnerability of our global community. We have all witnessed firsthand how a tiny, invisible virus can bring the world to its knees, disrupting life as we know it. These recurring pandemics underscore the cyclical nature of history and remind us of our collective resilience and adaptability. Despite advances in medicine, pandemics continue to test humanity. Moving on to political revolutions. These are seismic shifts in the fabric of society, often fueled by popular dissent against oppressive regimes. The French Revolution, for instance, was a 10-year period of radical political and societal change in France that saw the monarchy toppled and modern political ideologies birthed. Then there's the Russian Revolution, a pair of revolutions in 1917 that dismantled the Tsarist autocracy and led to the rise of the Soviet Union. The urban working class, rural peasants, and soldiers, led by the Bolshevik Party, overthrew an empire. Fast forward to the 21st century, the Arab Spring was a wave of anti-government protests, uprisings, and armed rebellions that spread across much of the Arab world in the early 2010s. It was sparked by discontent with the rule of local governments, though each country had different specific causal factors. Revolutions, it seems, are a recurring response to oppression. Now let's turn to the world of technology. Throughout history, each new wave of technological innovation has disrupted society in its own unique way, echoing the patterns of the past. Take the Industrial Revolution, for instance. This era saw the advent of steam power and mechanized production, leading to unprecedented shifts in society, economy, and culture. Fast forward to the late 20th century, and we see a similar upheaval with the rise of the internet and digital technologies. Today, we stand on the brink of another transformative period with the emergence of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Just as in the past, these advances promise to revolutionize our lives, but not without a fair share of disruption and challenge. Yet, with every challenge comes an opportunity to adapt, innovate, and progress. And so, the cycle continues. Each new technological era brings its own set of challenges and opportunities. Next, we tackle the cyclical nature of climate changes. Throughout history, the Earth's climate has gone through dramatic shifts, from glacial periods to warm interglacials. These shifts have profound impacts on the Earth's ecosystems and, by extension, the civilizations that depend on them. Consider, for instance, the medieval warm period, around 1,000 years ago. This era of relative warmth allowed for the expansion of agriculture, and with it, the growth of European civilizations. However, this was followed by the Little Ice Age, a period of cooling that lasted until the 19th century, leading to widespread crop failure and famine. More recently, we're witnessing a new cycle of climate change, this one largely driven by human activities. Rising temperatures are causing more frequent and severe weather events, threatening both our ecosystems and our societies. So, while the reasons may change, the pattern remains. History shows us that climate change has been a constant companion to human civilization. Our next topic, the cycle of war and peace. Ever noticed how history seems to sway like a pendulum between periods of intense conflict and tranquil harmony? This is no coincidence. Rather, it's a pattern that has repeated itself countless times across the ages. Think of the Pax Romana, a period of relative peace and stability across the vast Roman Empire, which was eventually followed by years of bitter conflict. Or consider the era of peace that followed the conclusion of World War II, a tranquility that was, in turn, shattered by the onset of the Cold War. It's a cycle that's driven by a myriad of factors: political tensions, territorial disputes, economic crises, ideological differences. All can serve as the spark that ignites the flame of war. But just as inevitably, the smoke of battle eventually clears, giving way to periods of peace and reconstruction. War and peace, it seems, are two sides of the same historical coin. Now we turn to the world of social movements. Social movements, a fascinating aspect of human history, are like waves on an ocean. They rise, crest, and then recede, only for another to take its place. Each wave is unique, yet they all share common traits: a collective desire for change, a rallying cry that unites, and a clash against the status quo. These movements are often ignited by a spark of injustice or inequality, fueling the collective fire of societal discontent. Throughout history, we've witnessed the cyclical nature of social movements. From the civil rights movements of the 60s to the fight for gender equality, and more recently, the global climate change protests. Each movement is a response to a societal need, a call for change that echoes through the halls of history. These cycles of social change are integral to our evolution as a society. They challenge norms, push boundaries, and incite progress. Social movements continue to reshape our world one cycle at a time. Finally, we look to the future. As we embark on this journey through time, we see that the cycle of history is not a closed loop, but an open spiral, always moving, always changing, yet eerily familiar. The rise and fall of empires, economic crises, pandemics, political revolutions, technological advances, climate changes, wars, peace, and social movements, they've all played out time and time again. Understanding these patterns, these echoes from the past, can offer us invaluable insights. They can help us anticipate what's to come and better prepare ourselves for the inevitable changes. Knowledge of history is not just a treasure trove of facts and figures, but a powerful tool to navigate the future. Yet it's crucial to remember that history doesn't dictate the future. We as humans have the power to influence the cycle, to break patterns, to forge new paths. As we've seen, history does indeed repeat itself. The question is, what will the next cycle bring? We've traveled through time and seen how history repeats itself. We've witnessed the cyclical nature of history, from the rise and fall of empires to the recurring economic crises. Time and again, we've seen pandemics sweep across nations, political revolutions upending the status quo, and technological advances shifting paradigms. We've journeyed through the changing climates of our planet and the ceaseless dance of war and peace. We've seen how social movements rise, fueled by the unending quest for justice and equality. And we've seen how, despite all these changes, the cycle continues, an eternal wheel spinning through time. Each of these examples is a testament to the cyclical nature of history. They are reminders of our collective past, lessons for our present, and warnings for our future. They tell us that no matter how much we progress, some patterns remain constant. Remember, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.